Football, the great American sport. But is it all it's cracked up to be? Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another movie analysis, and today's movie is 2015's Concussion. First up, an overview. What's this movie about? Our protagonist, Dr. Bennett, performs an autopsy on a former football star, Mike Webster, and realizes that there's something off. Before his passing, Mike Webster was showing signs of aggression, dizziness, disorientation, all of those kinds of symptoms that are very closely aligned with Alzheimer's and neurological deterioration. Dr. Bennett looks deeper and discovers an entirely new illness in Mike Webster's brain, and new football players keep on coming in for autopsies, and he keeps seeing this pattern of neurological deterioration in their brains. Dr. Weber makes the connection that the head impacts players receive while playing football is the cause of this deterioration of the mind. He coins this term chronic traumatic encephalopathy and strives to bring awareness to the harms that football brings. And during this, throughout most of the movie, he faces different obstacles and challenges that prevent him from doing so. In the end, however, he releases his findings about chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and I will be referring to that as CTE from this point forward because it is very difficult to pronounce. And he ends up bringing more awareness around this issue, and, the institution of football is kind of realizing it. It kind of ends on a good note. Anyway, let's get to my opinion on the movies. So, first we're going to start with the rating. I rated this movie 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the movie from a storytelling and aesthetics perspective. I thought it was really interesting and intriguing to see a bit of the science behind the new illness and kind of the procedures that doctors like him have to do in order to, discover new things and get that research out. I thought that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed watching it. I also really enjoyed this movie because of the realism it kept, even though it was, a movie and a retelling. On the racism and bigotry that the American Football League kind of has towards this doctor. They felt threatened by his findings, and the way that they reacted, I thought that was really interesting, and it kind of put me into that mindset and made me aware, like, hey, maybe not all big industries and organizations and communities, whatever, sometimes they're just out for themselves. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was really cool to see how Dr. Bennett opposed this challenge, this back and forth. I really thought, I don't know, it was a compelling movie. My favorite part of the movie, I'd say by far, is the few scenes where Dr. Bennett figures out there's something wrong with Mike Webster's brain. And, it's kind of like the timeline of him discovering this new thing, figuring out connections and coining the term and everything. And there's one scene specifically that I really, really enjoyed. It was, he was sitting in his house, there was football playing on in the background, and he was just like racking his brain, no pun intended, on what this is, what this problem is, what's causing it. And, he hears the football in the background and he turns to watch it. And, the movie shows, the visual, the connections coming off in his head, and he, it's like that aha moment. And that was my favorite part of the movie. I just thought it was so fun to watch. It was interesting. It was compelling. And, it was kind of exciting. He figured it out, and it was, a big, whoa moment. Now, for my least favorite part of the movie, unfortunately, I'd have to say the parts where his wife Prima was involved. That whole kind of romance side story I felt was really out of place and kind of took away from the story that the movie was trying to present. I understand that it was kind of like a memoir movie, almost like a retelling of Dr. Bennett's actions and experiences in finding CTE and getting it out, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know, I felt like it really did take away from, you know, the football stuff, CTE, when we were seeing scenes of just him and his girlfriend. I don't know, I feel like it felt like filler. It felt like filler in the movie. And now, the Catholic social teachings connections. The two Catholic social teachings that Dr. Bennett most commonly represents or demonstrates is human dignity and rights and responsibilities. Let's start with human dignity. So, despite the many oppositions Dr. Bennett faced, he insisted that Mike Webster and the other football players he examined were still people who deserved respect, and more importantly, understanding and awareness of what had happened to them. He wanted to ensure that all of them got closure and that people understood that they didn't go mad for nothing. Now moving on to rights and responsibilities, Dr. Bennett is, first and foremost, a doctor. As a doctor, he has a responsibility to treat his patients, to diagnose them with what's going on, and if it's a new diagnosis, to get that research and findings out, make sure that there is knowledge and awareness about different illnesses and diseases, etc., etc. They have all of these responsibilities, and despite so many people trying to stop Dr. Bennett from coming out with his findings, he still persevered and made sure that people knew about the harms of football and the problems that it causes, including CTE. And now it's time for the big money question. How does the NFL act contrary to the Catholic social teaching of human dignity? The NFL disregarded the science behind CTE and Dr. Bennett's findings due to racism, ignorance, and greed. They refused to listen to the immigrant doctor's findings on CTE to begin with, so Dr. Bennett wasn't even the one allowed to present his findings to the NFL. Additionally, their ignorance and greed prevented them from listening and implementing his findings within their industry. The NFL didn't care about the side effects of their sport. All they wanted was money and attention. This is acting contrary to the Catholic social teaching of human dignity for two reasons. The first reason is that they are disregarding this doctor's findings, scientific medical findings, because he isn't American but a Black Nigerian doctor. The second reason is that despite being aware of CTE and the problems and harm that it causes, the NFL does nothing to change what they're doing or to implement these findings in any way, shape, or form. The NFL even went so far as to publicly discredit Dr. Bennett and his findings, saying that CTE has no relation to football whatsoever, and even tried to get him and his colleague arrested or even deported. All of these are acting in opposition of treating humans with basic human dignity, kindness, and respect. They don't care about the well-being of the people that are being hurt. And that's the problem. Anyway, ended on a bit of a heavy note there, guys. Sorry about that. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie, 4 out of 5 stars. It's a pretty good rating. I feel like almost everyone should watch this movie. If you're interested in football, autopsies, different medical stuff, anything like that. I feel like it's just a really interesting movie. You'll learn something when you watch it. So I definitely recommend, checking it out. I hope you guys had a great time watching this video. Please like and follow if you want to see more of my content. And as always, stay awesome.